Hello and welcome everyone to the Oceanside Library. This is our first local author review where everyone gets to meet and greet with some local authors of Oceanside. We want this to be a casual chat with our local authors, so please, throughout the program, write your questions in the chat. Also, after the interview portion, you can open up your mics and speak to our authors. So we welcome you to participate. So before I begin, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ocaria DeMango. I'm the Adult Program Coordinator. I will be moderating today's program. Joined with me today is author Deborah Burns. She's a former Women's Media Chief Innovation Officer and brand leader for Elle Girl, Metropolitan Home, Elle Decor, and Elle International. As an industry consultant, she helps brands and executives reinvent, and she then did the same with her own life by writing her debut memoir, Saturday's Child, and founding Skirting the Rules to help others reinvent as she did. Now, Authorize It, Think Like a Writer to Win at Work and Life, has evolved into a corporate speaking platform, LinkedIn learning course, and her next book. We also have with us Jerry Zezima. He writes a humor column for Tribune News Service, which distributes it to papers nationwide and abroad. If you have ever wondered why the newspaper industry is in trouble, it would be because of him. Mr. Zezima is the author of 5 books: Leave It to Boomer, The Empty Nest Chronicles, Grandfather Knows Best, Nini and Poppie's Excellent Adventures, and Every Day is Saturday, all of which are crimes against literature. His words, not mine. They also come in handy for propping up wobbly table legs. If you suffer from insomnia, you might even want to read them. As a chilling example of just how low journalistic standards have sunk, he has won many awards, including 7 for humorous writing from the National Society of Newspaper Columnists. Again, his words, everyone, because he's really a phenomenal writer. So thank you so much for joining us, Deborah and Jerry.
Thank you. As I said from the beginning, Jerry's going to keep me on my toes here, my humorous toes. But I see there is someone in attendance, a man by the name of Larry Mccoy.
Great guy, funny guy too.
Who is very funny, Jerry.
Yeah.
So just like fair warning, he makes me laugh.
He's terrific. And I will say, Ocaria, thank you for lowering your otherwise high standards to invite me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I really appreciate you both being here. And for those of you attending today, you can find both of these authors' books and novels. You can find them at our library. You can check them out. You could also go on to the authors' websites, which we'll be sharing in the chat throughout the program. And also, we've started a great partnership with a bookstore in Kew Gardens called Q and Willow. If you go to their website, qandwillow.com, they have a whole section for the Oceanside Library, which always lists our author events, and they give 10% discounts to Oceanside patrons. So you can go on there and order their novels if you'd like. They have ordered both Jerry's and Deborah's books. All right, and so before I begin, I want to remind everyone that again, throughout the program, we welcome you to put questions in the chat so that we can get to them later. Or, at the end of the program, I welcome you to unmute yourself and speak, chat with our authors. We'd love to hear what you have to say. We want this to be an open chat with everyone. So please share your questions with us. Now moving on to the interview portion of our program. Again, Deborah and Jerry, thank you so much for being with us today. If you could please tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are today, writing and publishing. So Deborah, ladies first, go ahead.
Well, you read a bio, so the stage is kind of set. I spent a whole career doing one thing, and then at a cross in the road, went in another direction. Because as Pam knows and Larry knows, because I didn't teach that group, I was a mere member of that group while I was writing Saturday's Child. I was compelled to tell my mother's story. And I had lost her almost 25 years before. I am an only child. She was an otherworldly, beautiful, mysterious, elusive woman who I saw mostly on Saturdays. Jerry, I did notice you wrote a book that had Saturday in its title, and I think that's one of the big ironies of today. Two completely different people coming from just like smashed together today, and we both have books with Saturday in the title. It was a 7-year creative journey to ultimately publish that book as a memoir. It started off in a completely different way, a gazillion twists and turns. And I kind of stepped into the unknown with it, and had many flips and flops and triumphs within it. And when it published, I was changed. The whole process of living life in the final 2 years, I gave up everything to finish the book and then get it out there. And it had many revelations. It wasn't just a creative journey, it was an emotional journey. There are many things I knew at the end of the process that I didn't know at the beginning.
You mean throughout your research and writing?
Yeah, and inner work, just to give one example, I thought I was writing a story about her, which was easy for me because I can channel her in a way. But as some of the people in the writing group knew, I realized about 3/4 of the way through, I'm the writer. It's my perception of her. It's not her. And that was fundamental to the book. And that was one of the failing forward, but that was one of the moments where I had to start over. And when you look at things from your own perspective and how you feel about the situation, I had to dig deeper and excavate things and come to terms with things and my idealization with her and how I worshiped her and why, all of that, that I didn't even intend to do at the beginning. So it was on every single level transformative. And how you asked me how I got here, it led to my next book in a serendipitous kind of way. If you asked me a year ago, what are you going to be working on next? I couldn't have answered the question, but I took the lessons that I learned from that creative journey about work, and I meshed it together through too long to explain how it happened. And I realized that the world of storytelling, as the writers on this talk totally understand, is full of wisdom. But 98% of the people who are never going to write a book don't know it. And so it started off as, despite having been a chief innovation officer, here are 5 lessons I never knew until I wrote a book. And that premise got expanded and expanded and expanded in talks inside of corporations and a LinkedIn learning course that's going to be going live. And it led to this book called Authorize It, Think Like a Writer to Win at Work and Life. And the pandemic gave me the gift of time and space to kind of jumpstart the book. I never would have been able to do it as quickly, like in this last year, basically. And it's going live for pre-order in a few weeks.
Oh, that's great.
So that's how I got here. The key word, serendipity. I mean, there's no other way to to explain my journey, kind of just following a heart pull and letting it unfold.
And to think that you could gain so much from the writing process. Again, you thought you would gain other things in terms of learning about your mother, but you also learned these other life lessons through writing.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you see new things like when you peek around different corners. And so, Jerry, how the hell did you get here?
I came upstairs from the kitchen. That's where I was having lunch. But I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was in high school. And my decision could be encapsulated in one word: algebra. I could never do algebra. I was always better in subjects where you really didn't have to know the answers, like English composition.
Mm-hmm.
I found I could just BS my way through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on in college, I got a BA, but I've always had a BS in life. So I realized that I could just bluff my way through, and I happened to be the class clown. And I said, well, how can I parlay this into a career? And I was reading my hometown paper up in Connecticut, the Stamford Advocate. And I started reading the great humor columnists, Art Buchwald and Irma Bombeck. And I said, that's what I want to do. My professional goal was to be silly and irresponsible and actually get paid for it. So I said, I want to write a humor column. It would be like doing stand-up comedy, except I wouldn't have to show up, which is, very convenient.
And stand in front of a crowd.
And stand in front of a crowd, right? Because then the crowd would run for the doors, and I'd be talking to myself. So a year out of college, I just took myself by the hand, which must have looked pretty silly. And I walked into the office of my hometown paper, the Stamford Advocate, and just announced that I wanted a job. And the editor said, well, what experience do you have? And I said, I don't have any. I had no experience. I didn't write for the high school paper. I didn't write for the college paper because I just was goofing off. And so he gave me a test. And fortunately, it wasn't an algebra test, but it was, like general knowledge. It was grammar. It was current events. It was history and all that. And obviously, I did well enough because I was hired, but there were some questions to which I did not know the answers. And instead of taking half-hearted guesses or leaving them blank, I came up with the silliest, stupidest, dumbest, funniest things I could think of, put them down. Later on, he said, that's what got you the job. It showed signs of creativity.
You invented Balderdash.
I did.
And you didn't know it.
Yes, right. And now I can't really dash, but I'm still involved. So and so he hired me. I failed miserably in one thing after another. I was a sports writer. I was an editor. I was a police reporter. I was a city editor, and there was really nothing.
Paper.
All of that paper. There was really nothing left to do but write a humor column, and they gave me one. So this was 1985. I've been doing this for 36 years, and I realized that I am spectacularly unqualified to do anything else. So I found my niche very early. And a lot of people say, well, how do you come up with ideas? And I decided early on to write about family foibles and the funny little things of everyday life because they happen every day. So there's never a problem coming up with an idea. And I don't believe in cruel or mean-spirited humor. I poke fun at myself. I'm a rich target. Well, maybe not rich, as my wife and the IRS will attest, but certainly deserving. And probably the nicest professional compliment I ever got was from a woman who said, I think your columns are very funny, But what I really like is that you never put down your wife or use your kids for cheap laughs. And I'm not above trying to get cheap laughs, but they're at my expense.
Mm.
And I also hear things like, it's like you're living in our house. And my stock answer to that is, actually, I am living in your house and you're out of beer. So please go buy some more. But I've done this column for 36 years now, and it's the kind of stuff I think a lot of people can relate to because they see themselves in these situations. I just carry them one step further than any normal person would take them because, of course, I'm not normal. But I started writing books. My first one came out in 2010, which was Leave It to Boomer, because I'm a baby boomer. Second one, The Empty Nest Chronicles. My wife Sue and I became empty nesters. Third one, Grandfather Knows Best, because I became a grandfather. The fourth one, Nini and Poppie's Excellent Adventures, was a continuation of the grandparenting stuff because we added 2 more grandchildren. And then this one, Every Day is Saturday. There it is. This is why I'm not in sales. Is a combination of grandparenting stuff. I retired from my day job as an editor, and finding humor in the quarantine.
Mm.
So, I mean, a lot of it is timely, I think. And, a lot of people are going through the quarantine and they're beside themselves, because they're going stir crazy. And I managed to find humor in all of this.
Did you start writing it in quarantine or finish it in quarantine? You had begun writing it and then we went into quarantine.
I retired and I took a buyout from my day job. I was an editor at Newsday, and I always thought my package would be a get out, like no money, just get the hell out. But they offered a buyout, which is very nice, very generous, and I took it. And 2 days later, my wife and I went down to Washington, D.C. to visit our newborn twin grandchildren. And on the plane, I thought, I'm retired now. So there's a book in retirement. Then there was the grandparenting stuff. Then the quarantine happened. And I thought, oh, now we're stuck at home. And my poor wife was stuck in the house with me. And she hadn't retired yet, but she was a teacher's assistant. So she was working remotely. And she ultimately did retire. But I started to find funny things to write about in quarantine, and have never tried to get humor out of the pandemic, which is not funny. I mean, obviously, it's a tragic thing, but what everyone goes through being stuck at home, especially with their spouses. So my wife was stuck with me, and it's been, frankly, a goldmine of material.
And I mean, like you even touched upon when you said you would write the humor, the article, when you were writing the articles and people would say, it's like you're in our home. It's so great to read articles like that and books like yours, because we all ultimately, go through the same things in our homes with our families, the same kind of situation. So it's great to find the humor in that, and kind of a bright spot. So like you said, yeah, you weren't trying to find humor in the pandemic, but you were trying to find some bright spots that would make us laugh while we were all home, together with others, which I'm sure we all found.
People can relate to that. They can relate to what Deborah writes and has written about, even if they haven't gone through those same things themselves directly. There is still a connection, a personal or family connection to her story, to the frankly stupid stuff that I do, and there's a connection. I think they see themselves in it.
Have you ever thought of doing a like screenplay? We're all binging shows, and as I was listening to you, Jerry, I saw the other night the movie with Steve Carell called Irresistible.
Oh, I saw that too.
I found it hysterically funny,
Yeah.
and we've all had it
Right.
with politics. Let's not even talk about which
No.
side, if we even
Right.
have a side.
Right.
I stay above all of that.
Right.
But what they managed to do in a non-political way
Mm-hmm.
is to poke holes at politics in fish out of water, a double whammy kind of fish out of water on both sides in a brilliant way.
Yes.
And as I listen to you, today's the first time I had the pleasure of meeting, and I hope we can talk more in life and it brings us together again. But as I listen to you, it feels like there's an opportunity to like expand those, not limits, but expand that horizon.
Well,
that you
Deborah,
have a little bit.
funny you should mention that.
This is why I was so good in the media in the corporate world. There's something here, Jerry.
You have read what little remains of my mind. Steve Carell's was called Irresistible. Mine would be Irresponsible. But I am actually working on a sitcom, and it's based on my second book. It's about empty nesters, and I have the perfect pitch. If you think TV is bad now, wait till my show gets on the air.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
another reason to know why I'm not in sales.
You know, we all, and you know, I've been, Pam happens to be like right up there in front of me, and I just opened her chat. Thank you for saying those kind words, but Pam's writing is amazing. And we all kind of help and inspire each other because we're all on these different but intersecting journeys. And so I just want to share, because I think it's interesting for everybody. On mine, when Saturday's Child came out, the Hollywood Reporter recommended that it be a series, a movie or a series, which was like a mind-blowing moment for me. And I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind. It's a mysterious world. I have no clue how it works. I know miles to go, so complicated. But what I ended up doing, and this is the point I want to make to you and Larry Mccoy, also very funny. You can have complimentary, non-competitive shows.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Is I entered, you have to submit, but I entered a TV pitch workshop. Mine happened to be hosted for women by Marta Kaufman, the co-creator of a little show named Friends.
Yes, right.
And Grace and Frankie now.
Yeah.
And so you had to submit. They were taking 12 people. I did it. You had to have an IP. You've got many IPs to pick from.
Well, I have an IPA in the refrigerator.
And so, and say a little bit about the show. And there's an aspect of my book. My uncle was the lightweight champion of the world, Tony Canzoneri. And years ago, they had built the notorious Canzoneri Country Club, where the mob mixed with all kinds of, in upstate New York. And I pitched that angle, like bringing kind of that lost era. I got accepted to the workshop.
Wow.
It was mind-blowing. It's the most fun I had writing in my whole, writing for me is very tedious and hard. And I got accepted. And the first workshop was learning a little bit more about the TV world. The second workshop, each one of the 12 of us got 5 minutes to pitch. And I created from that a show treatment called The Last Resort.
Ooh.
And you know, everybody in my story, everybody had access to everything. My mother had this beauty. She could get whatever she wanted. My uncle was this famous man, blah, blah. Nobody got anything. Nobody was happy. And so my log line for it was, when the world is at your feet, there's a hell of a lot to trip over. and I pitched this, and Marta Kaufman has the document and given me feedback on it, and feels there's an interesting show, has some areas that need to be worked on, but I'm in communication with a person who I never would have been in touch with because of this. So here's this is the heart thing I always have going on. Here's the honest assessment for you. That job interview story and how you got that job.
Mhm.
When you put yourself in front of anyone on a Zoom call, you have that core agency about you where the other person's going to see it. And I would recommend I was going to say a little bad word, but I remembered, no, Deb, they're recording. Put everything else aside and find experts and connected people who are leading workshops and get yourself in one of them. And that's the way to like ease your passage. Otherwise you're like, it's just like such a cluster. I can't even.
Well, first, Deborah, I thank you profusely. Second, you are amazing, but not surprising. I'm not surprised that you did this. Just having listened to you, you are abundantly talented, and I'm grateful for your advice, and I'm happy that you have gotten where you have gotten. I'll tell you, I wrote the treatment and I wrote the pilot for my sitcom. And I hope all of you are familiar with the name of W. Bruce Cameron, who has written the Dog's Purpose books, Dog's Journey books.
Yes.
nice.
You had to remind me what the book was, but yes,
the movies
yes.
that they've been based on. He's a buddy of mine. He is a terrific guy. He is a wonderful writer and a wonderful guy. He was gracious enough to read the pilot, and he said, "This is really good." He made some suggestions,
Good for
not
you.
big ones, and I tweaked them. And so right now I'm happy with the treatment and the pilot. I am now trying to find either an agent or a producer who is foolish or drunk enough to go for this. But I may take up you on your idea of doing it that way.
Yeah, it was a path. Now I'm just telling you the story, miles to go. I mean, this has probably a 1% chance of happening,
Right.
but the joy and the possibility
And the learning experience.
and yes, learning whatever happens next, like it was tremendous.
Yeah.
But you've gotten very far. The agent thing is another. Wow, it's very hard.
Right.
I know, but what I've learned is get somebody in LA. Forget everybody. Forget everybody here.
Yeah.
You got to, and maybe your friend, use his agent. Like just put yourself with, align yourself with success and recommendation, because it's the only way to get in somewhere.
In writing my most recent book, I put the sitcom on the back burner, and I had to remember not to turn on the burner and burn the house down. But so I'm gradually getting back to it. I mean, still my main focus is on my columns and my books. If the sitcom doesn't happen, fine. But I know that I need to work on it more and be more serious about it if I want anything to happen. So we'll see.
Well, and do you have a whole treatment for it? Like just like the narrative arc of a series and how the episodes would and who the characters are and all of that? Or you went straight into the
No.
screenplay?
I wrote the treatment, that, and Bruce
Okay,
said
the treatment and the script.
and-
Okay,
yeah, right. So
Right.
they're there. So
wow.
Wow.
okay.
That's so cool. I hope to see your name one time on the bottom of the screen.
My
Yeah.
next job will be as an intuitive.
Well, actually, when we are off of this, I'm going to ask you for the winning Powerball numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only. Right now, starving artist over here.
Yeah.
You can't help it, Deborah. You have this, you're this teachable personality, you love to empower and engage. So you couldn't help yourself.
I can't stop.
Well,
I
she
love
can't help
that.
herself from helping
I
others.
can't help myself.
Great.
I can't stop myself from helping others.
Was
Well,
that
congratulations.
when you signed up for that workshop? Was that right after you wrote Saturday's Child, or were
Not right after. No, it was the actual workshop was right around the holidays, like the end of the year. It was in November.
Oh, it just happened.
Just happened, yes.
Oh,
And I just emailed again, and it's just such a thrill, and I'm such a fan of hers now.
yeah, that was the coolest story for me because I'm a huge Friends fan. I mean, you could ask
Who's not?
friend.
Do you want to know what the
Yeah.
log line of Friends was? That's how I got inspired for my log line.
What?
She was in that first workshop. She was many teachable moments. I'm taking like a gazillion notes. And she said, when she pitched Friends, her log line was, it's about that time in your life when your friends are your family. And I said, me too. And I said, oh, I get it. Like that's even different from a tagline or from what you do with a book. That is like, wow, like a boiled down to the essence of what this show was.
Exactly.
She didn't have to say anything else. It was so brilliant.
Yeah.
And I got so inspired from it, really.
That is, what a perfect way to put it. Oh my goodness. And yeah, I mean, 10 years came out of that. And by the 10th year, I remember how everyone felt when the show ended. You felt like you were losing this group of friends. You joined these friends.
Do you know why it ended?
They were family.
Do you know why it ended?
Why?
Just another brilliant moment. She said it ended, it had to end because they were starting their own families. There goes the whole premise of the show.
True.
It didn't work anymore.
Right.
And I said, oh, I get that too. That's almost as brilliant as the first part.
Yes. Yes. And people have wanted so many spin-offs of it, but you can't recreate no.
Maybe then she could have said, when your babies are your friends.
Yeah, there could be like all the cartoons that did the baby Flintstones or the baby Nini and Mickey and everything. Right. Now it's the baby Friends.
Right.
But anyway, it was one of the most, whatever happens, one of the most wonderful experiences I've had as a writer.
Right. Wow. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that story. That was very cool. Very, really awesome anecdote. All right. So our next question, I mean, you guys kind of somewhat answered it, but maybe you can just talk about your genres a little bit more. Tell us about the genres that you write in. Deborah, you wrote a memoir about your mother in Saturday's Child, and you talk about reinvention and skirting the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry, your stories are like memoirs themselves in the Empty Nest Chronicles, to your most recent Every Day is Saturday. Why did you both decide to write about these topics, and what do you hope your readers get out of it? So again, you kind of got into that, but Deborah too, in Skirting the Rules, was that before or after Saturday's Child?
It was before. That was the original name of Saturday's Child, was Skirting the Rules. And my pub, because my mother skirted a lot of rules. And my publisher said, not a good title for a memoir. And I tried to convince her nicely why it was the best title in the whole world. And she said, no. And she wanted something more poetic. And I had referenced that nursery rhyme in the book. And I said, well, what do you think about Saturday's Child? She said, think no more. That's it.
Perfect.
It's perfect. But I didn't start, as I mentioned, writing it as memoir. I learned a lot about myself as a writer. In college, I was a journalism major. At work, I was involved in marketing. So I'm wired for the headline, for the marketing expression of something. And when I wrote, I had to, it's almost like switching pens or switching hands. I had to unfold a story. Like my talent is to sum it up in a paragraph. That's my book. Here's my book. Like here it is. So I had to learn to take whatever talent I had and make it come out in another way. And then after it became a memoir, I think why it touches readers through my kind of eccentric story is because I have no judgment. I'm like Jerry in that way. Like I'm not telling anybody how to think about my mother. I loved my mother. But I had to reveal the truth about the two of us. And I think why the book works is because I'm coming from a very emotional place. I don't believe that I am a fiction writer. There are 1,000 authors who can turn out the beach reads every year and do it much, much better than I ever will. I don't think that's where my strength is. In the second book, now that taps the business. It's almost more like business and marketing writing. That book flowed out once that headline came in.
Right.
The book just flowed out. I won't say it wasn't tedious or torturous in its own way. There's so much repetition and rereading and editing and tweaking. It's very hard to write, I find. But it was a whole different experience. And if I do another book, which right now I would say never again, it will, maybe one day I'll do Skirting the Rules, which would be a reinvention book. Maybe I might do that. Or I may go totally crazy and go back to the original novel, which was historical fiction, and see if there's something there that can play out with like where we are now culturally, if it still resonates in some way. I don't know. I never really know what's coming. I just know that I stay at it every day. And then when you do that and you really work hard every day, the answers, they begin to come and they take shape and form.
I think with Saturday's Child too, you wrote about a topic that, especially for women, there's nothing like a relationship between a woman and her mother. We're all unique in the same way, but we all can share similarities as well. That relationship is so important in growing up. And so I think that your book touches upon that. So I think that's why it connects with so many people. So
thank you.
And
you'll know soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I look forward to. Yeah. And so that's why I'm so happy I'm having a girl. And then the reinvention, too, we were saying before that you couldn't help it. What made you start Skirting the Rules? Was it because of the industry that you were in? You felt like,
it was it was, I started something in partnership with someone that I had worked with, where at the time, this all started when I was in London with my daughter, and I was in the National Portrait Gallery, and I was in a room all by myself, and I was looking at all these women from the 18th century, Mary Wollstonecraft, and this thought came into my head. And they were all unconventional. Forget about glass ceilings, like they were all breaking through concrete walls at the time. And I thought about I was looking at their portraits, and I said, oh, my mother was more beautiful than any of these women. That was my first thought. And then, like this lightning bolt, I said, I am going to find out about all of these women, and I'm going to write about my mother. It just like came out of nowhere. And that set me down a path where I did learn about all of these women. Mary, in addition to Mary, there was Mary Robinson, the actress. There was Olympe de Gouges, the French, kind of aristocrat turned revolutionary mistress, like all of this stuff. And I wrote a story that actually was grounded by my mother. Guess what? There was a redheaded, blue-eyed, beautiful, young heroine in the story named Jane, which was my mother's middle name. And like the story came out between the two of us, but it was in that form, and it was called Skirting the Rules. And so at the time, now we're going back 8 years really ago, this notion of these women from history who were skirting the rules and had life lessons for women today came up as like, should we do something with this? And I had a friend from work who wrote another book, and we took his tool and we made a tool so that you could learn about your approach to life. And then it became about reinvention. So Skirting the Rules came up. We were going to have a content brand. We hired other writers. We built a website.
Right. And then it's trademarked. Yeah.
It's trademarked. And then building a content brand in today's online world is really like, that was one of the not so great moments. Learned from it, fail forward. But that became more of a workshop kind of thing. And I did one at the library, and I've done others, and they've morphed and transformed along the way, because each time you do one, you learn.
Yeah. And you learn from your participants. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then it became a memoir. So that was going to be a book. And the literary agent for that book heard like the whole story and kind of like what we were doing back and forth before. She said to me, you should try memoir. And I had never thought about it, ever.
It's so interesting.
And I felt it, just like you said, I had the chills before. I said, oh my God, that's where this has led me. It's the real story.
Right.
That I put 2 centuries to get it really far from me.
Yeah.
I put it 2 centuries ago and fictionalized it. It's the real story.
That's
the two of us.
Rat people. Yeah.
And then it became that, and that became my focus. And Skirting the Rules was over here as a workshop, and women were reinventing, and there was a women's moment at that time, which now is so saturated. And I'm not.
It almost came at the perfect moment.
Yeah.
You got it before this huge, rise.
Right. And now, like, women don't need me anymore. Like, everybody's helping women now. I should help men. It's that ship has sailed, and I'm not a good, I can't feed sound bites. I'm not a cause joiner. I'm about people, perspective, and potential. Like, I don't get
still think you
involved
have much
in,
to offer. No, absolutely. No, I disagree. I think that, I think you could still encapsulate this moment. And there's a lot that we can learn from you, that women can learn from you, and young women. So no, keep doing what you're doing and keep offering
we'll see.
libraries those workshops, because that's, there's always a time for that. So, but I know what you mean, that the view is kind of saturated right now.
Yeah. It's just different now. And then, we're all binging. I think about the original concept of skirting the rules set in the 1700s, and then Bridgerton comes out and becomes like this phenom.
Yeah.
I would never, though, have conceived. I didn't have the either the talent or the vision to conceive it in that way, but it was fascinating for me to watch it. And maybe there's another moment, because there's so much of other times. I think people are sick of the time that they're in.
Yeah.
And they want to get either more context from history or whatever.
Right, because it's modern concepts set in that historical time. So I think what everyone loved about it, the diversity of the different characters and the cast.
It was an amazing show.
Right.
And Jerry, Shonda Rhimes.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Masterclass. And she has a masterclass, and she's an insider.
Wow.
And I would listen. I would join Masterclass just to listen to the Shonda Rhimes workshop.
Well, I will do that, because until now I've had no class. So so now I can. And that's another very good suggestion. So thanks.
So now I'm bored with me. On to Jerry.
Right. So you had mentioned you had gone from, the column to writing the memoirs, but, was it different stories in your column that inspired these memoirs, or, how did you decide to write this genre?
Well, as I said earlier, I really can't do anything else. I always just love the little things of everyday life. I think that's and finding the humor in them. That's always what I've wanted to do, and I really haven't changed that outlook. A lot of people say, are you going to write a novel? You're going to write a screenplay? Yes, I'm doing this sitcom, because my wife and I would be watching something like Everybody Loves Raymond, and she would say, that should be us. And I said, hon, half the people in America say that. But then I thought, maybe. And that's when I started writing books, because if you see the credits at the end of a show or a movie, it said based on the book by whomever.
Yeah.
So, but my main focus is still on my column and on my books. I don't think I'll ever write a novel. I mean, I know this will sound like literary sacrilege, but sometimes I think fiction writers must lead pretty dull lives if they have to make their stuff up. Then I realized that the best fiction is rooted in reality, and the best fiction writers can take us places we could never take ourselves, which is why I admire them so much. And if I tried to write one, if I did write one, I think it would have the worst possible result. It would be mediocre. Not good enough to be great, not bad enough to be good.
Why do you think that? Because you'd have to make that stuff, something now that is true, and it's so funny because it's true. You'd have to make up, and if you wrote fiction.
I think so. And I not that I don't think I have that in me. And if I had that in me, I'd have to see a surgeon, I think. But it's just that I'm very happy being where I've always wanted to be, which is my little corner. And I love doing that. I love getting the reaction or the feedback from people saying, oh, so much bad stuff going on in the world. You made me laugh or chuckle or smile, and that to me is wonderful. I mean, that's really the reason I decided
But
to do this.
just to riff on what you're talking about, and what you're asking, you're a dialogue guy. And I think that's why the screenwriting
Yeah.
is what's coming to mind. And I'll just say like one line, when you're writing a novel, you have to describe the grass, the green of the grass. Like there's so much extraneous
Well, mine
stuff.
would be brown.
It's
Grass.
brown, unwatered,
Crabgrass.
but it's all of that atmospheric thing, and your words and how you're getting people to respond to it, all of that gets judged. And to your point about, is it good enough, but you shine in dialogue. So in screenplay, it's like, cut to the house.
Yes.
And
Good point.
I think you found, that's what I was responding to before, not knowing that you've gone down this road. And now that I know that you have, it really does feel like the right road for you.
Yes.
And you can fictionalize it.
Well,
Right.
I could. It would be based on my family. I've said I'm the best character I know. Now maybe I should get out more, but it's based on me, my family, people I know, everyday people, which is why I think most people or many people can see themselves in it. Whether they're my age group or not. But I just still love doing it, and I can't ever see giving up my column.
Right.
No matter what else I do. I mean,
What else happens?
Yeah. So, some people say, oh, I've gone on to bigger and better things. To me, there may be bigger things, but none better.
Excellent.
Perfectly put. And I mean, even what you said too, that you, even if you were to fictionalize it, it would be based off of your real life. That's what the creator and writer of Everybody Loves Raymond, I mean, the parents were his parents.
Yeah.
No?
I mean, I don't know if it would be called, some people seem to like Jerry. It's probably too long. But
Some people seem to like it.
yeah, probably a little wordy, but
I love it. Oh, that's great. All right. So, I mean, the last question had been, what were you both, what can we look forward to from you? And, Deborah,
I covered it. I'm done.
Exactly. And obviously we're going to see a screenplay from Jerry in the near
For
future.
sure.
I'm just going to put that out there. So we can say we have sat amongst a celebrity today, this afternoon. So I'm very excited about that. So instead, we discussed binge watching, and we've been discussing television so much. So what are you guys watching right now? Let me just throw a fun question out there.
you, Deborah, I see her now too.
Out of the many streaming services, what show?
First of all, I get them all. And now Amazon Prime, they did an app, so now it's on a TV upstairs where it never was. So I've watched so much, like I can barely answer the question. Irresistible was one. Of late, Irresistible, and I just watched the other night, I Care a Lot, with Rosamund Pike.
I just saw the menu. It was good?
First of all, it's shocking. It's a dark comedy. Lots of, twists and turns, but the concept of the scam behind guardianship and how much can actually happen. Like in the first few minutes of it, you're sitting there and saying, could this actually happen? And I think the answer is yes. So it was a fascinating premise, well worth the watch for a movie. I finished Behind Her Eyes, That was a recent one.
Love it on there.
Very twisty, little woo-woo, but interesting. Did not see the end coming in the way that it did. It was a little slow in parts. Not the best thing I've seen, but it was good. For those of you that like women's friendship kind of thing, Firefly Lane
Oh, saw that.
on Netflix, with Katherine Heigl, was very good. And Bridgerton, I would highly recommend a binge
Yeah,
there,
I would
just
too.
to like study it and
Yeah.
say, what were they thinking and how did they do this? And it was great. Those are my,
Very well
but
done.
I mean, we have watched so much, from Peaky Blinders, which was amazing. Just go down a roster. I've seen it.
Thanks, Deborah. Great. How about you, Jerry?
I'll answer it very quickly. I don't know if anyone here has any questions. I want to leave some time for them, but I will tell you that for someone who's writing a sitcom, until not too long ago, I didn't watch that much TV. But more recently, my wife and I got into Outlander. Then we watched Schitt's Creek, which was great. Now we're watching Call the Midwife.
Love.
Very popular.
I am just enthralled.
Mesmerizing, right?
Yeah. So yes, that's my TV binge watching.
Thanks, Jerry. And all great ones too. All good recommendations. And guys, we have a ton of extra time. So I mean, if anyone,
good.
you can, I mean, I had said an hour, but please share your questions. Don't feel rushed. Does anyone have anything to share with the author, with our guest today? You can unmute yourselves.
I met Larry McCoy in a store.
Hi there.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
Thanks for your kind comments. Jerry, I have a question. Was the editor who hired you fired?
No, he was killed.
Oh,
No, he was not.
what a country, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. When they say free press, they'll let anyone in.
How many columns a week do you write?
I write weekly, and it depends
Okay.
on how you spell weekly, but it's once a week, and I've been doing that for, as I said, 36 years.
I saw your piece on Boomer Cafe today.
Oh yes, it's there.
Yeah, David's a nice guy.
Yes, David Henderson,
Greg Dobbs.
yes, Greg Dobbs, former ABC News correspondent, terrific. But both of those guys are great. Greg and I exchange. We'll go like half a day exchanging email puns back and forth. Greg is great, and David is too.
Good to see you, Deborah.
Good to see you too. What store where were we? Costco? I don't know. We bumped into one another behind our masks.
I hate Costco. Costco is everything bad about America in one location.
Right.
Oh, that's so funny.
Larry, what are you writing?
I put stuff on my website, and I may have a book about growing up in a small town in Indiana.
Oh, good.
I've been writing a lot of stuff for my grandkids because I only knew one grandparent really, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, and you never ask enough questions. And so I'm trying to write pieces for my grandkids about growing up in a small town. And most of it's true. But anyway, that's basically what I'm working on.
Larry, that's such a great idea. There's so much I wish I could have known about grandparents that have passed. And last year when I was taking an ancestry class for my librarian degree, I got to interview my grandmother, and I put it on, I made a recording. It was, an audio interview. And I have so many stories now in that one recording that I want to make more, because just to have that, that
And
memory.
her voice would make it even better for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what you're doing for your grandkids is amazing. They're going to appreciate that so much.
Well, I'm going to charge them to read it, though.
Good.
Yeah.
You're gonna try to get the child labor laws repealed?
Right, you don't do this for nothing, right? Anyway, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Say
Larry.
hi at home and to your wife.
I will. Thank you.
See you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Deborah and
So I just wanted
anyone?
to say something. So hi, everyone. So I was saying when I started earlier that today is my birthday. So I said, what am I going to do during a pandemic? So I know my husband has dinner being delivered and we're doing a family Zoom tonight. But when I saw this, I got excited because I think one of the things that I missed the most during this pandemic is spending my Fridays in the quiet room of the library. I'm the type of person that, I just love that. I don't want all the distractions of home. And what happened was when I turned 50, today I'm 59, I feel like I had, like, God put a dream in my heart to write a story. I feel like we all will write a book, that we all have a story to tell. So then I had retired, I was working part-time. And then I decided to start writing this book on parenting. And when my daughter was in American University in marketing, she did a whole thing about me, like a reality show. My kids think that I should be on a reality show, they'd be millionaires. So that was it. So the book on parenting. And what happened was I started working part-time and I would go to the quiet room. And then I joined the creative writing workshop class with Barbara Novak. And I met Larry there. And I show up and I'm the new girl. People were there, 15 people were there. This was like 2 years ago. So, I really enjoyed that. And actually, Barbara had sent us an email during the pandemic and I spoke to her and my husband tried to help her to do this online, like a Zoom. Larry, I don't know if you've been in touch with Barbara.
Yeah, I don't think she can handle,
Right.
it's not for her.
I've gone back and
Right.
forth with Barbara, begging her to do something, but it's
Right. So
difficult.
my husband's an engineer, he's working from home. He's very patient, very kind. And she appreciated it, but it wasn't working out. So anyway, my kids gave me a gift for Mother's Day. I had shared it with the group. It's called Story Worth, where it's a company in California. And every week you get a prompt. Write about the neighborhood you grew up in, write about how you got your children's names, write about a bad date or whatever. So I put my book on the side and every week, it takes time to write. So every week I was doing these prompts. In the meantime, my daughter was getting married and then it ended up, I put pictures with it and then it was printed into a book. So, so I have 52 stories because you get one every week. So I felt very proud of that. So people were like, oh, where can I buy it? And I said, no. I said, I look at myself as a printed writer, but I do want to be a published author. So during this pandemic, I've been home. My husband's been working upstairs. I've been doing a lot of projects in my house, redoing things, cleaning out things. So I really haven't had the head for the writing, which right now I'm so glad that I spoke with everyone here, but I definitely miss going to that quiet room. I think I better get over it and just do it in my own house, but I don't know if you have a suggestion, but that was like my spot, I would know that was my time every Friday, how many hours I would devote. But you were saying, Deborah, that we should do it every day. And I think I did meet you when we had a class in Rockville.
You look
Center.
very familiar to me,
one
so
time I
I
met
think
you.
so.
And Jerry, I think I met you when you spoke at the JCC for Hadassah. I think I even have one of your books upstairs. So both of
Oh,
you
wow.
I met, and Larry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so
I would, if you're disciplined you were doing one thing, I mean,
Mhm.
when something changes, Deborah, you have to change.
I know.
So I think that like blocking out, for me, it's the mornings. As the day goes on, I get less and less creative and my stamina, but early in the morning and my quiet time and alone. And I listen to binaural beats, like on YouTube, they have all these, like, I can't listen to music. I have to block everything out and I can't listen to music. I can't listen to anything with words because that just is counterproductive for me. And I just do it. I put myself there. Everyone faces the blank page. Jerry does it at least every week. and so do I. And just do it and devote yourself. It sounds like you're at a point in your life where you have the flexibility and the time to do it,
Definitely.
but are feeling like you can't. So I would think you absolutely can. And whether
No, I
you do it-
feel like, meeting everyone today is definitely motivating me. And when I look on my laptop for the last time I did it, I have all my chapters written out and I have all my notes. It's just I have to just sit and get myself going. But I feel proud that at the end of the pandemic, which is almost a year, there were 5 projects that I had in my house and I'm almost done with the 5th one. So people are like blown away. I mean, my granddaughter was born 5 months ago. She comes here sometimes, not that often during a pandemic, but she has her own nursery here. Like, I'm just saying, like, I love decorating, whatever. But the book, like my kids are like, all right, Ma, this is what you want to do and you have to do this. So the
And
fact
I'm
that
sure if Barbara Novak were here,
Yeah.
she would tell you that, what you've done in the printed book that you have is
Yes.
you've linked scenes together. And
Right.
that's all the larger memoir or whatever it is you start with a scene and then it just continues to build. So start there, reread your book,
Yes.
find, what is the story that you're telling?
I have the title.
Answer some
I have the
questions.
title. I have the title for the book. So it's called You Owe Me Your Life with like 2 fingerprints, thumbprints. And it's like little, maybe 3 or 5 page chapters just to flip through. Because what happened inspired me is that people would say, teachers would say, or friends, that my children are such good kids, kind kids, charitable kids. They wrote thank you notes. They pushed their chair in, just things like that. And I'll be in a restaurant and the table next to me is like a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. And the 2-year-old has a big sword, like a Power Ranger, swinging it around. So I had to look at this mother and very calmly, I said, when my son was that age, I had a little bag of restaurant toys for him, and they apologized. So little things, because sometimes you look at bad parenting and then you look at happy parents make happy children. I mean, I have this whole thing going on. I just have to do it. And the pandemic took me off track, even though I did other projects, but meeting everyone today remotivated me. But I would love to be part of that writing class because you with everyone, it's like your tribe. It's like such a great group. And it's free. I could never believe that it was free.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Deborah. I'm
Local
so happy
library.
you got so much out of today. And I hope so too that, we can create something again, with Barbara, hopefully, with Fascinations and everything, hopefully in the near future, there can be some way that we can gather in person with Barbara. But as a programmer, I'll try to look into more writing workshops on Zoom. If we can have it with Barbara.
I didn't get the spelling of your name. I just wanted to write it down.
Oh, sure. It's Ocaria Demango. So it's Ocaria.
Okay.
And then Demango, Dimango.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
can
one of
teach
the
an
program
authorize it
coordinators.
workshop at your library. I do the authorize it ones now.
Yeah.
So it's all
I'm gonna have to
those
put that on the
lessons and then
calendar.
how to shape the business stories you need to tell or your personal narratives. So it's
when is that?
no,
No,
we
we
have.
need to
She's
add it
just
to the
saying she's
calendar.
trying to think of new things for the library as a
Okay.
programmer. So
Yeah.
I've been doing authorize it workshops.
No,
So
we're
I'll
definitely
send
gonna
you.
add
I'll
that.
send you an overview.
Definitely.
I mean, do
haven't
you recommend any other Zooms that I should participate in? Because I just started getting the emails actually from the library.
Do you guys, well, writing wise, we have our poet in residence. She does once a month. Look out for her poetry workshop. It's called Poetry Chat, but she doesn't just talk about poetry. She talks about writing as well. And then
Okay. Is that
sometimes
during
we
the day or in
discuss-
the evening?
Evening, 7 p.m.
Okay.
And sometimes great discussions will come out of, breaking down the poems. She's a professor at Nassau Community College. She gives some
Okay.
great writing lectures. So that's the only thing kind of writing themed that I have. And that's where from this program I'm gathering, I should offer more with writing. So
Only because if you reached out, there was about almost like 20 or more than 20 people in that class. So I don't know what
Yeah.
everyone else is doing.
we just kept
Yeah.
hoping Barbara would come
Would
back.
come back.
with something. Yeah.
I want to put in a word for Barbara. She's the best.
She is
absolutely
the best.
She is.
You can write the worst thing and she will find the one good thing in it and
She
ask you to build on.
does. And I love her laugh.
Yeah. And that's why
Yes.
I didn't want to find a new one, you know,
Right.
about a month ago, I think it was actually around the holidays. She wrote to Tony and I, and she said, you know, I've been trying to figure it out, but you know, it's not going to be anytime soon. So, yeah.
By the way, you were speaking about binge watching. So the joke in my family is I like a G-rated or PG movie. And now my brother, my kids are like, Mom, that's all you talk about is everything that's murders. I don't know if anyone saw Ozark.
Oh
Yeah,
my
very
God.
popular.
That's
Oh,
another
Did
one.
anyone
I
see?
forgot to mention that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too.
Amazing.
Did anyone see Hunters?
No.
That was with Al Pacino. Amazing, amazing, amazing about how the
Oh.
people after the wartime came here and then they hunted. Anyone see? And I'm late to the game. Breaking Bad.
Yes.
So my husband and I have like 3 episodes left. Oh my God, that's like crazy.
Oh,
So,
another one. If you're a Bryan Cranston fan, Your Honor.
yes, yes. And then some people like the movie he was in, The Upside.
Yes, very.
Yeah,
very
that
creepy.
one was a little,
But
I
Your
didn't,
Honor was very good. Yeah. that
Very
was really
good. very good.
And
Anyway,
Pam, I
Breaking
just
Bad.
read your comment. Thank you so much.
Pam, thank you. So
Thank you to
unmute
all of you.
yourself for a moment, please. I have to go soon, but I can't go till I hear your voice.
What would you like me to say, Deborah?
Something like wise and wonderful. You're always saying something wise and wonderful. That was so sweet. I'm seeing it now in the chat that you retired, but today is one of the happiest days since. I'm so glad. We were a small group, but I'm glad it was
I
meaningful.
had so much fun with all of you. Thank you so much. And if this was our first try, you know, at this kind of program, you know, I want to have more chats with local authors. As you can see, we live amongst so many writers. So
Yeah.
I want to give them, and sometimes, you know, when we have our you know, our larger author events, sometimes local writers will reach out, and I don't want to do them in the same format. You know, I like having these discussions because we can learn so much from each other. So
And thank you for pairing me with Jerry. I don't know what the inspiration was, but whatever it was, I think it worked. And
Yeah.
I'm honored to meet you.
Well, and I'm
I've
honored
been
to
on
be-
a panel with you.
the feeling is mutual. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I got lucky. I was recommended Jerry from my supervisor, Tony Iovino. He had read your books and said, you got to check this author out. I'd love to do a program with him. And I was like, oh, this is perfect for my idea for a local author review. And when I saw it, I think it was the Saturday. And because
okay.
you guys
Yes.
were different yet the same, I was like, I think I should start with the both of them.
Well, again, your next job is as an intuitive. Very good instincts.
Yes.
Thank
And when
you.
do
all.
you do? When do you do?
I'm due at the end of April 27th.
April.
Very
Wow.
exciting.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
That's soon.
Wonderful.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you again so much, everyone. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming and joining us. And
Yes.
thank you so much to Jerry and Deborah for your inspiration and your work. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
Very
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Appreciate
everyone.
it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.